So George joined. Here, there we go.
Here
There
we
you
go.
go. Okay.
Can you
So
hear
it's,
me?
yes, we can hear you loud and clear, George.
Nice. I can't see myself. I only got half a screen for whichever reason.
Yeah. We all have half a screen. Well, I
Well,
have
the
half
other
a
half
screen.
asked me to go live with you, and I can accept or decline.
Yeah.
So these are my two options.
Yeah. All right. So we have a couple of minutes before it's 8 o'clock on the nose, for us Indian people and you guys further in the West. So let's give people a couple of minutes, George, and then we'll start our exciting topic for today.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I can't even see comments. I only got the top screen, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I think there's some technical issues going on because I tried inviting you to the live event and the invite didn't go through. So I'm sure our listeners are being patient with us. So thank you guys for being patient.
Yeah, also means I can't read comments.
It's okay. I can't read them either. It's too small for me. So it's okay. We'll just go blind.
Yeah.
Because
Cool.
I think it's an exciting and inspiring topic anyway. So even if we don't respond to questions, I don't think it's gonna be, people can always, you're easily accessible. I'm easily accessible.
How long do you want to talk about it?
Um, I don't think there's any given time. Let's just go with the flow, see where it takes us.
Cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's begin, George. So thanks, guys, for joining us, and welcome to the exciting topic we'll be discussing today, which is the probability of the impact of high impact exercises on the progression of neurodegenerative diseases. So, George, I thank you for being here with me today. Today is Ataxia Awareness Day, so I just want to talk a little bit about ataxia. I have cerebellar ataxia. George here has Friedreich's ataxia. So ataxia is a very rare and not very known disorder. To give people kind of an idea of the prevalence of ataxia, so we have a population of about 8.3 billion people on the planet. I can say 20 million people have multiple sclerosis. 17 million people are diagnosed with cancer every year. A mere 20,000 are diagnosed with ataxia. So what exactly is ataxia? All right, so ataxia it's a disorder that damages your tissues in your cerebellum. It's a movement disorder. There are three types of ataxia. Ataxia, which is hereditary, ataxia, which is acquired, and genetic ataxia. So George here has the genetic kind. I have the acquired kind, which is actually the most prevalent, but least is known about this kind. So I think that's it. I mean, ataxia, again, is usually defined as a subset of symptoms, poor gait, poor coordination, lack of voluntary muscle movement, and the genetic kind is, you have an example of George. The acquired kind is an example of me. You have a stroke, you get ataxia. You have multiple sclerosis, you get ataxia. So in terms of my story, I have no etiology, so I don't know how I got this ataxia, and I don't have a prognosis, so no one knows what exactly is going to happen with me. So I was a very fun child to parent. I'm sure I gave my parents a good amount of anxiety for that. Okay, so I'm sorry about belaboring this. So let's get into the discussion. So I was very inspired when I met George. He has a very interesting story, a lot of hurdles, which is true for any, I think, disorder, this person who goes through any disease. But I think what is able to accomplish and what he has shown really inspired me in terms of what can happen. So, George, I pass it over to you. If you want to tell people exactly when you were diagnosed, and I know you mentioned that you're very into exercise. So let's talk about when you started to exercise, and then why did you decide to whether continue the high impact, or why did you start high impact exercise? What led you to that decision that might help your ataxia?
Yeah, I'm a late diagnosed patient, so I got diagnosed at 35 years old. And then, of course, the first thing you do is you ignore this kind of diagnosis. I didn't know what ataxia meant, of course not, and because it is so rare, it's not something you come across in your life anytime by chance. It's quite strange. And then a couple of years ago, it became more dominant and obvious that I had to do something to deal with the situation I'm facing right now. And that brings me back to sport. So you asked when I started exercising. I probably started, the official version is I started rowing at 10, and probably I started a lot earlier than that. I'm born into a family of keen rowers, of keen athletes. My brother rowed, my cousin, both of them rowed, my parents row. So I kind of had no chance to avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, having his background, being progressing through the German system as a teenager, and then being diagnosed late at 35 with a disease as severe as this, you ask questions, why am I diagnosed so late, and what happened? And I imagine, and this is really just based on my personal experience here, I can't get a medical research into this direction to see if this is actually the case. But I figured that it is the vast amount of training I did as a teenager that
Mm-hmm.
delayed the onset and maybe even stop progression at this stage, which would be amazing if that's the case, if there actually is something we as patients can do by ourselves rather than relying on a medical support to figure out something to delay or stop our progression.
Yeah, I totally agree. On similar lines, I was diagnosed a little bit earlier than you in my early teens, actually preteens. Um, but I was also a very avid exerciser. I went at that age, at a pretty young age, I was really into sports, soccer, baseball, softball, tennis. I was a gymnast, a lot of running. So I think that even though I was diagnosed at about 10 years old, I think because I started with such a kind of a rigorous routine, and then I actually continued that routine until I was say 16 or 17, I converted all that athletics to going to the gym. Since my coordination slowly left me. But I think in terms of me as well, I think even though my exercise is not high intensity, I definitely see a difference, and I do believe that exercise um, does serve as a buffer to me, feeling more of the symptoms of ataxia. I think the muscle mass, you know, muscle density, that definitely does help in the coordination and the balance that I can use on a daily basis.
That is another thing when we talk about exercise. Not every form of exercise creates the same results. So I then, when I got diagnosed and looked into it, I was looking at fellow Ataxians to see what they are doing and what kind of may help and may not help. And I had very little appetite left to go into a competition sport. So I'm 43 years old now. I not only have Frida ataxia, I also have my age to deal with. And cycling is quite a good activity that a lot of ataxians are doing, which would be long cardio exercise or equivalent to long cardio sessions. And yeah, that probably ataxia, as you know, is quite a varied disease with a lot of
Hi, George. My phone is ringing.
probably me calling it with a variety of impacts on patients, and our cardiovascular system is affected. So long cardio sessions would counter that quite well. And what I don't mind doing is muscular development. So going to the gym, building big muscles. And yeah, that's probably one of the more desirable side effects of doing too much sport. You actually become quite a strong physique. And I was terrified to get into my third element of exercise, which I'm doing every now and then now, and I really should do a lot more often than I'm doing that at the moment. And that is interval training, that is increasing intensity in medium bursts of time to complete exhaustion. So that is hard. It's you just push yourself beyond muscular ability, and in terms of training, that would be called anaerobic sessions, when you deplete your God, we must not forget I'm an architect here, and everything and our exercise.
Thanks, George. But the doctor or the PhD that we add to your name, you're allowed to give us some of your knowledge. So go ahead. No one is judging you here.
I am an
So
amateur.
okay, so tell us
I'm not talking about architecture.
what's the difference between anaerobic and aerobic exercise?
Yeah, anaerobic. So in normal cardio sessions, for example, you feed your muscle cells with oxygen through the blood and are able to maintain that intensity for almost indefinite duration of time, because your muscles receive the energy through the oxygen. And when you go anaerobic, you increase the intensity for so much that your system, your muscles can't generate the energy they need through the oxygen you breathe in through the blood, which then forces the muscles to find alternative sources for energy, and that would be the mitochondria. Now we know that ataxia has a mitochondrial deficiency, and by training anaerobic to the point of exhaustion, even beyond, you increase your mitochondria count.
So I I definitely have mitochondria is what's is the part of our cell that
Yeah,
is responsible for the energy in our body.
yeah,
So I think for most Ataxians, including myself, your body is always moving. So we have I would assume that most of us have very high metabolism, meaning that energy is converted pretty quickly. Yeah.
yeah. That energy you normally use is oxygen, memory, energy given to the muscles through your blood flow, and that has little to do with your mitochondria count. And if you want to increase your mitochondria count, you really need to push yourself into an anaerobic state, I think.
George, George, are you sure your PhD is in architecture and not medicine?
Well, if some medical sports scientist would confirm this, that would be nice.
I think, well, look, for our listeners who are interested in this topic, you have two people here who can attest to the fact that high impact exercises, high intensity exercises do help in mitigating any progression here, right? So you have George, which is, a genetic case, right? So it was passed down in your genes, so it's hereditary. And then you have me, which God knows where I got it from. But I definitely see when I go to the gym and work on I'm increasing my muscles or whatever it is, I definitely feel a more stability. Aside from all the other chemical effects in your body that proves that exercise, is kind of a feel good activity. I think, George, I think you and I are onto something here that if we could get research or science ears on this,
Yeah.
I think it would give hope to a lot of people. So one thing I did do for high intensity, so I don't do high intensity on a regular basis. I do 15 reps of my quads, and my quads are burning, and I'm done. So I start crying at that point, and I start cursing as well. But one thing I did do, I remember I used to swim a couple years ago, and my trainer, she used to push me so much that I remember even in a pool of cold water, I would be sweating, and
Yeah.
I would if you push I push myself, but I don't push myself like utter exhaustion, and I think that's kind of what you do. And when I had this trainer, this is how she would push me, and I think it was definitely beneficial. I probably wasn't appreciative of it at the times I saw her during the week, but
That's a
I think
bit of a problem. The anaerobic training is not visible change. It's you change the configuration or the ability of your cells. So if you look at high performance athletes, it's not, I mean, the ones I would refer to are the ones where you wouldn't even notice that he's a world champion in rowing or something, because it doesn't look like Ultraman. He's just very, very healthy, very fit beings. And swimming is an excellent sport. And ideally, once you go into a competition sport, and that's what I would advise to all Ataxians to start some, ideally swimming. And my experience, of course, is rowing, which is also not only a full body workout, it's also a very complex exercise, which means it gives our brain a lot to do, a lot to figure out in terms of ability and movement. And the more complex, the better, and the more difficult it is. But this competition aspect of it is bringing in the duration required and the intensity needed to train. And for anaerobic sessions, you wouldn't do lifting, you wouldn't do quads. That's a short burst of movement, takes a couple of seconds. That is not enough to deplete your existing oxygen flow into the muscles. So it would be, if I could give a guideline, 40 seconds minimum of, or it starts after 40 seconds of heavy exercise, that you actually only go into this anaerobic state. And your muscles should fill with lactic acids, and it is very painful to do. It hurts a lot. Going to the point of exhaustion is easier said than done, right? Because you
Definitely.
are the point of your physical exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
And another guideline for cardio is cardio starts after 20 minutes. I do my cardio sets, even though I probably should do a bit more. The cardio is duration of exercise at a specific heart rate. And especially the heart, that's something we definitely have to talk about in a bit. But cardio starts after 20 minutes. I do 45-minute bike sessions on a static bike, and my target heart rate is 150 plus. So I just go to 150 a minute and keep doing it for 45 minutes.
Wow, I can hardly do cardio for 20 minutes, you know. It's very tiring, but I think after a while, like I use the elliptical machine, and I realized after 10 minutes, like the first like 8 minutes, my legs are burning, but then after 10, you kind of get into the flow.
Yeah.
But once your heart starts really pumping, it kind of gets annoying. So your body wants to stop. But if you can, I think the point is if you can go beyond the point when your body starts kind of crying, I think that's a point where you are. And I think that's what benefits you.
Yeah, I have very little doubt that it is this training exercise, this training regimen I do is hugely delaying the progression of ataxia. I have very little doubt about it, but I'm not a professional in any means. Yeah.
So there's one thing that I want to bring up in tandem, which is really interesting. So I think you've been exercising for quite a span of time, correct correct? And
Yeah.
there's a theory that well, it's not a theory. So our cells and our organs, right? Our body is made up of cells and it's made up of organs. So every cell and organ in our body reproduces itself or recreates itself. It dies and then it's recreated. So some organs take days, some take weeks, some take months. So that's just another speck of hope, you know, that organs are always changing. So yes, you do scientifically, you do have the ability to change your body or change what you want in your body. So I just wanted to bring that up. So I think George is an example of this, George, right? Because you have been exercising for quite a while. And if your theory is to push yourself beyond the point of exhaustion, you've trained your muscles, right? Because muscles have memory. You've trained your muscles in a way that your body is fighting against that genetic inkling to, okay, my muscles got to wean now, you know. This is not the format Ataxia is supposed to degenerate. I think your muscles are like, no, we're doing good, you know, we have enough to keep going, you know. So
Yeah.
I think that's what your story proves. And George, what I want to ask you about is you shared with me your SARA score, right? So SARA is the scale of assessment and rating of ataxia. And George, if you want to take it from here and tell us about your SARA score and what you learned and what you shared with me, I think that would be really informative.
Yeah, I live in the UK, and during Corona times, medical support was very limited, which meant I only have one SARA score prior to COVID, and this year we managed to measure my rating again, which also gives the benefit of a 4-year gap in me trying to train as much as I can during COVID, which was quite limited, and the before and after on my progression of ataxia. And yeah, it didn't change that much. So I scored 8 points 4 years ago and 10 points this year, probably also because it was spring and I had a cough. So one point was my ability to talk. And that is a very slow progression for Friedreich's.
Yeah.
Which,
So, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, again, it's the first time we actually have a medical confirmation that at least my progression is manageable.
Yes, I think so. So let me give a little bit of background. So SARA is used to has generally is used to assess the severity of ataxia in genetic and non-genetic conditions. However, like I said, a lot of ataxia is acquired. So you know, so George having basically a 2-point increase over the span of 4 years is very kind of applaudable, if that's the right word. So also I did a study, and it showed that there were 55 patients who had a score of about 8, and in a span of 4 years, more than 85% of those 55 patients increased their score by 4 or more. So I think, we don't know why, there were no details in the study of what the causes are, but we have one example right in front of us, right, of your score increased a mere 2 points and you weren't even exercising all that much. So imagine if you were exercising, continue the momentum of, you know, changing your muscles, your muscle memory, and all of this, you know, just imagine the results, right?
It would
So I
be
think,
so interesting to see if this HERA score actually can go down to
and
reverse progression.
I think that would be interesting, and I think the discussion we're having today is a great starting point, right? But like, I think, as you know, George, it takes a lot of commitment to do what you've done, right?
Yeah.
Every day. Like, I think people with challenges, you know, stress, depression, denial, shame, whatever it is. Oh, I'm aching today, I'm aching here, my legs, my back, whatever it is, you know, my partner, my kids, my job. You know, there's so many stressors that, like, that you were able to dedicate time to this. It's really kind of commendable, because of that, you're now you're in a position to inspire other people with your stories, right? So because I did research study, I don't know who the people were, I don't know, you know, what happened to the people, I don't know why the scores went up or went down. But here we have you, you know, live example of a very, very slow progression. You know, so if we could, you know, if we could continue that momentum, I think it is possible. Between, go ahead.
It would be amazing to have more data. And in order to get more data, we as community need to start training the hell out of ataxia. It's in the
Yeah.
end only us that can push for that change by raising awareness that this might work.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think that we should. And but like I said, it's really hard for that commitment to come about, because of, you know, daily life, daily, you know, daily shit that goes on. But
Yeah.
you know, I think if we extrapolate, I think, you know, the cornerstone of this is not only ataxia, but neurodegenerative diseases in general. I think, you know, between your example and the scientific fact that your body, your whole body at different times, different periods in time, does regenerate itself, so that if that commitment, that intention, that drive is there, if you can keep that commitment, which is hard, again, like I said, because of the daily stuff that goes on, you know, I definitely think it's a possibility to turn back the time, so to speak, you know. And I think your story gives a lot of hope, you know. And what we discussed today is, listen, when I first spoke to you, I was very inspired, because I have always felt that the little exercise that I do serves as a buffer, you know, it serves as a buffer
Do
to my balance, you know, getting worse.
do
So
more.
yeah, but I don't have time to do
I,
more, right? That's the problem. People will always give excuses, you know. So, you know, I guess it's about priorities in your life.
it's also not about motivation. I have no motivation to do what I'm doing. I was in the semi-professional German national youth rowing squad and left the world of training not very happy, let's put it that way. And I'm not a big fan of what I'm doing at the moment, but I think it saves my life, and then it has to become a habit when you not rely on motivation. You just
Yeah.
do. That's part of your daily life, like brushing your teeth. You're not
Mm-hmm.
that you brush your teeth. It's not something that fulfills you. And to me, sport or rowing or intervals or long cardio sets is a bit like brushing my teeth. It is something I just have to do.
Yeah, I think most of us don't have that mindset, you know. I think we prioritize different things
We do
over exercise.
just, I mean, also doing exercise on that level I intend to do at some point, which I'm not even there yet, is hard. So start slowly, but start and keep at it. And
Mhm.
half a year later, you improve, you increase, your abilities probably increase. I would be surprised if they don't. So your lung volume increases, which I think directly affects our ability to speak. When you have stronger lungs, speaking becomes
Mm.
easier.
Yeah,
And
that,
then there are a couple of things I don't know how to fix them. I lost my ability to handwrite. So as an architect, I used to draw with my hands a lot with pencils, and I can't even write my name at this stage. So it's
yeah.
not a cure. We have to be very realistic about what sport can actually achieve, and that is being able to walk independently and probably increase your independence and ability to live. But it will not fix my eyesight.
Uh, Um, I mean, think, I think George, um, exercise serves as a buffer. In my little exercise that I do, I see a difference. And the more exercise that you do, you see a difference. Now, I think because your condition is genetic, you have some underlying, you know, stuff that will affect you. But I won't go to the extent that to say that exercise can't be your cure. I think it depends how you look at it. I think, in a way, exercise very visually has been your salvation, right? I think there are certain things in your life that prevent you from doing as much uh, as you want or at the intensity that you want. But I think if you could keep at it, I mean, I think it's your sour score um, and your continued abilities that can attest to this fact.
Well, I certainly will not stop exercising probably ever. I don't want to do it, but I will continue doing that. And I guess we just have to see what my Sarah score is next year.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I'm looking forward to it. I
and
I
another
personally have.
I do have regular heart exams in one of the Oxford University hospitals. And every year, my cardiologist tells me that I must not exercise, I must not do heavy lifting, I must not do long cardio sessions, and I most certainly must not exercise to the point of exhaustion. And that's exactly what I'm doing for years now. And he, yeah, just tells me what the risks are when I'm doing it. And I disagree. Let's just put it there.
You know, so just to let our listeners know that Friedreich's ataxia does have a correlation, I think a definite causation with pulmonary or cardiac, right, disease. George, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think, George, cardiologist telling you, George, don't do high intensity exercise, don't do cardio over 20 minutes, don't do X, Y, and Z, and you going and doing X, Y, and Z for the past 5 years. So pardon me, but like if the cardiologist was right, you would be in a very bad position right now, right? But you're not. You're doing touch wood, you're doing well. So I think that just proves that exercise can be a cure, right?
Free,
Medical science is telling you it cannot be happen, but you just proved that it can.
Ataxia is associated with arrhythmia and cardiomyopathy. And of course, we notice fault in my heart. So I do have a noticeable Friedreich ataxia symptom in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
The textbook my cardiologist will have advises him to tell me to not do what I'm doing. That's the state of our medicine. That is simply something we have to accept, that our medicine says this. And I think we need to change a couple of guidelines our doctors operate with. That is
It's around the world. I think it's the theoretical versus the practical approach, and most professionals, sorry to say, are theoretical. So, and that's where we rely for our information and our guidelines. So if we're always depending on theory, you just showed us that theory doesn't always hold water, right?
it doesn't.
You can.
It can be changed. That's exactly the same in architecture as in medicine. You need to start something controversial in order to change our knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just start. It starts with just one pebble, right? Creates that ripple effect.
Yeah. So what I would want, what I would wish for, is that more of us start exercising. Please do monitor your heart rate. As I know, I'm just cautious about the guideline, but please start exercising and see if you improve. And you will not get a significant result in a day, in a week, in a month. It will take a long time to
Yeah,
change this cellular function. One of
yeah.
the
It's
big advantages of me over you in this case is that my Friedreich ataxia is genetic. I had it all my life. There is no doubt that I'm born with it, and there is no doubt that I probably will die with it. But that means at the time when I started rowing and taking rowing a lot more serious, it was already there.
mm-hmm.
I did row. At one point in time, I was the fastest rower in my age and weight class, and beat all the non-disabled people by not knowing I was disabled or that I had Friedreich, and my heart was fine. And
Mm-hmm.
when I progressed onwards to the German youth national team, whatever that means, in the 90s, they put me, of course, they put me under a couple of screenings to see for my physical fitness. It's more the ability to do exercise rather than looking for a rare genetic defect, and no one noticed anything alarming. And by being and born 1980, of course, I was called to do military service, which I did. But let's not talk about my time in the army here. Let's talk about what they then do in order for you to classify you fit for service. And even on that medical exam, nothing suspicious came up. And I had Friedreich ataxia back then. I don't know how many Friedreich ataxians were active members in the military, but would be nice to meet more of me. And it just the physical ability I got through exercise just left no space for ataxia to develop, to flourish.
Yeah.
It was there,
Yeah.
undoubtedly, it was there. There were symptoms, there were signs, and one of the earliest signs would be my incapability to drink alcohol. I don't know how many of us have the same problem, but even as a teenager, when I had 2 beers, I wouldn't make it to the bathroom in time. It's one of the first things I just cut out. I don't drink alcohol at all. That's just easier for me to not face the problem alcohol creates.
Yeah.
So the question is, what can you do? What can we do as Ataxians to improve our life rather than waiting for medical researchers? I can't really, to find a solution for our problem. It's our problem. It's not their problem. It's our problem. And one of them is, of course, live more healthy than everyone else you know. So stop drinking alcohol or reduce alcohol and start exercising.
Yeah.
Alcohol alone wouldn't do it. Weightlifting alone, I don't think that's doing it either. And cycling on its own doesn't seem to do it as well. So it's really these short bursts of high intensity, 40 seconds plus minute exercises to the complete point of exhaustion.
Yeah.
Can't go on, and you go on because at some point you just do. And then let's see who wins. So it's every single one of us against ataxia. And I am quite confident that there is something for us as patients to do, that we can get up and do something, even though our cardiologists or most people around us would tell you not to. And even our own genetic programming says no. But there's something.
Yes, there definitely is the nature versus nurture. I think, George, I think your story and our discussion today touched on a lot of things, you know, the ability for us to change, nature versus nurture, all of which is really inspiring. And which also, I was really excited when I first spoke to you because even though I felt it and I see the differences. I think I see the differences of exercise every day. When I spoke to you, it just kind of proved that, hey, you know, my gut feeling or my gut instinct was right. You know, so No, I think you've got it down penned really well. You may be a doctor or a PhD in something else, but I think you are you're well equipped to be to be an Ataxian trainer. And no, 40-second spurts you said high intensity. That's over my head. I just sometimes I'll do 8 reps, sometimes I'll do 10 seconds, but it just depends on my muscles, fatigue. But I think you got it down pretty good. And I think it shows that, you figured out something, and if I think you said you go to Oxford, if you can get eyes and ears on your story, I think it's huge if you can, because I think it's kind of a breakthrough, right? If you can put that into words.
We need more examples, more stories like yours, where you say, when I train regularly, this does something. I don't know what it is. I'm feeling better. My abilities increase. And it's not muscle mass. It really is the reconfiguration of our cells. That
Yeah, it is.
we as
And
humans have to do this.
yeah, and I think there are stories like mine, maybe not as vocal as mine, but there are stories that can attest to the fact that exercise does help, right? It's not only the body, right, reconfiguring our body, but it's our minds, right? Our minds are in a better place when we exercise. Our body is replenished with dopamine, serotonin, and things like that. But I think, like, while my stories can kind of support and can kind of give hope, I think it's stories like yours, or maybe you're the story, because your story is kind of the epitome of what exercise is capable of, right? Again, the study that I read is theoretical. I don't know these people. I don't know why their scores increased as good as yours, but your story is a real life experience of how exercise can help, how that consistency can help. So one thing I will draw from this session is that anyone who has ataxia out there, if you have that desire, if you have that willingness, if you have the ability to be consistent like George, you should definitely engage in a high intensity sport, exercise. Do what you can to keep. If you can, at the very minimum, like me, just try to keep yourself active, because any activity does help in a movement disorder. Even if you can't push yourself beyond the limit, I think just getting out there and being active, even though it hurts and even though you're ashamed, even though you might not want to, it's really helpful, and it's going to help your mind and your body if you do.
Get a team around you to motivate you to do it, and get
Yes,
some form of coach, like your swimming coach. Swimming
yes,
is excellent. Just if you struggle walking, start swimming.
right, right. If, yeah, it's a
There's
great exercise, muscles, cardio, all in one.
also, when your coach pushed you with swimming, that you would swim hard for more than 40 seconds.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think that's why I cursed at her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I was never
well,
good.
right.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Another
Well,
thing is really noticeable for me at this stage is I get better at sport. Of course I am. I do exercise every day or almost every day, and my numbers increase. Of course I
Mhm.
because this is biology.
Right.
Is progression in a different way than ataxia intends.
Yeah, again, it's just saying that you've configured your muscle memory, your muscle, your story just shows that you have the ability to change if you want to look at this in the esoteric sense, you have showed that we have the ability to change fate, right? So you were diagnosed with FA, which is a genetic disorder, which genetic means genes, right? So you have it since birth. And I think FA is usually earlier onset. You had a later onset, which maybe your exercise served as a buffer to that late onset. And then your later abilities and your slow progression just shows that you have indeed changed the configuration of your body, the way your muscles react, the way they have memorized to walk. Because I know in my condition, if I'm in a wheelchair for one day, I will have trouble walking. My muscles will fatigue and lose memory very quickly. So, and I think that's true for all movement disorders. The more you relax your body and take it easy, I think it's that much easier for your muscles and your body to forget what it is, how to walk, which muscles to use, the coordination. And just if you keep moving and then take this step beyond by pushing yourself, I think we're both just examples that, progression can stop at some point. It can slow down, and I think ultimately can stop.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hope so. That would be quite something to not get worse.
Hey, we're in the what year? 2023. I think we stumbled upon something impressive, George, and I hope that ears and eyes catch on to this, and we can start something and bring people hope on a wider scale.
I hope so too. In the end, it's every single person's choice whether they can do that amount of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not me or us or you to start that. It's really each and everyone is needed to pull together and do this.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has their own capacity, but again, it's about priorities, which is very individual. So it's up to that individual, but whatever one can take from this, there's a lot to take from this discussion, George. So I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you for providing this platform.
Yeah. I to get a little personal, I've been stalking George for what I think more than a year or two, and like last year, I think when I contacted you, you told me don't bother something like don't bother me, I'm busy, and then I just happened to I think I messaged you again like a month or two ago, and you said okay, I'm available now. So I'm glad we finally connected because you did have something to share. I'm glad I got it out of you.
Thank you for pestering me.
Yeah. I'm good at that, George. I'm really good at that. All right. So I think we should call it an end. It's almost an hour. So for me, it's for us on the east, Eastern side of the world, it's a good evening. And I think for those of you that are more Western, it's good day, I yes, or good rest of your day. So, George, thank you for joining me, and to our listeners, thank you for joining us. And I hope you found this talk and this discussion insightful.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think there are some questions that we can address now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a question. Can you tell us what symptom, what you symptom, and what you are?
I,
Okay.
you're too far from my phone.
Okay. So someone asked, can you tell us what symptoms are you're not doing exercise and what changes? Okay. So the symptoms of ataxia are, like I mentioned earlier, bad coordination, lack of muscle control, bad gait. And this is for every muscle in your body, right? From your eyes to, I think, coordinating your steps to go upstairs. And for me, George, I don't know if it's the same for you. I would imagine it is, but just my balance. So even though I can manage my coordination, I always need someone with me, holding me to make sure my balance is there. Is that true with you too?
Yeah, balance is a bit of an odd one. So clearly, that was something that was always bad. And now rowing is an exercise that requires a bit of the ability to balance in the boat. And clearly, I managed to do that quite well. But then it would still be something that could be noticed by trained people even early on. And at this stage where I'm now with balance, I walk independently around the house. So where I got furniture and walls I occasionally need, I walk without walking aid in the gym. Don't know, just feel confident enough to not use a walking aid, and I got a cane to get to the gym. So my
Yeah.
balance is
So
poor. It's not great. I am affected by free dries.
right. So I think to answer your question, whoever asked this question, so balance, coordination, gait is a problem with us, with ataxians, and I think exercise may not totally alleviate it, but it definitely serves as a buffer. So, like in George's example,
Gait,
his
there are
balance is much.
exercises you can do to strengthen your gait, to manage to get the legs apart, to strengthen your gait. And there might be better exercises than I'm doing that help with walking in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's. I think your continuous exercise has served as a buffer, because I know when I exercise, the muscle that I tone, muscle that may be increased, it definitely supports my balance. It definitely supports my movements. So I think exercise definitely, hands down, helps.
Yeah. And especially
Yeah.
gait is a muscle group
So there is a question:
that is
what kind of
difficult to
exercise
isolate.
can a patient with ataxia perform at home if he don't have access to gym?
Okay. So we have another question by a listener asking what kinds of exercises can you do at home if you don't have access to a gym? So there are a lot of exercises that I have posted on my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel is you can find me by my name, Alma Chopra. So a lot of exercise that I personally do at home is a lot of coordination exercises. And unfortunately, a lot of exercises are a lot of what kids would do for fun. So I have a couple of nieces and nephews, and I'm sitting there playing with their games, and it's quite funny, people are just looking at me and saying, "Oh, what is this grown person doing with toys?" But it really does help, in terms of coordination, in terms of movement. So I would strongly suggest to whoever asked this question, for those of you who are looking for exercises to do at home, it's my channel to look at. There are other channels and things like that you can do for every muscle in your body, as well as the coordination bit. So I think if that's all, I think we'll call it a day for you and a night for me, because I'm really ready to wind down. It's 9 o'clock here, so I think I'm gonna bid adieu at this point.
Thank you very much,
George. George, thank you again for joining me and sharing your story with all of us. And I know I took something from it today. I definitely took something from it the first time we met. And I wish you well in what you're going through, and I hope you more success in your exercise.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, take care, George. Good night, everyone. Yeah. End video. End video.
It's not saving.
You can end video. It's gonna say. Thank